I am so excited to be back in Sardinia, and in this video it's going to be a little bit different than some of the other videos. I'm gonna tell you how we ended up choosing Sardinia to invest in real estate, and I'm gonna take you on a little boat tour to Isola Tavolara, a beautiful marine sanctuary, some incredible waters, turquoise waters. And as I go and explore, I'm gonna kind of walk you through a bit this journey. So I'm gonna tell you, why we chose Sardinia. I'm also gonna share how did it start? And it started with two things: a realization, kind of many years ago, just looking at reality, and then having a dream. And I'm gonna share that with you. I'm also gonna talk a bit about how, where you live, the place you're in has such a big impact on your level of life satisfaction. And does it have the things you love? Can you do the activities you love? Just where you are, where you're living. And if you're going to invest in real estate, so important, this impact on your life satisfaction. I'm also going to share with you what I call my $100,000 land rule. So if you're buying land, why I look at land that's under $100,000. A bit about finding builders in Sardinia, our experience. I can tell you there's quite a few interesting and some setbacks there. I'm also going to quickly share how I built capital over the years, like investing, and how, you're wondering, okay, we're investing in all these different properties. So I'm going to share a bit how over the years, what were the rules and principles I used to build this capital and grow my real estate portfolio, and how I look at really having renters paying off to pay off the debt and to build capital over time. So that's it. So it's a pretty long video. I'm gonna go quite personal, share these stories with you. I hope you like it. And so let's head off to go and explore Tavolara, and let me share with you the story of this journey. Here we go.
We are on a journey to find real estate deals in places of utmost beauty. Entry-priced luxury properties that are undervalued or deliver high short-term rental revenue, what we call Blue Vista properties. We've bought, sold, renovated, or leased high-end properties or land in stunning locations around the world. Come with us as we explore new locations, develop new projects, explain our methodology, and share the learnings along our journey.
So we're at the port here, and we're gonna head out on a boat to Isola Tavolara and go explore a little bit the waters, beautiful waters in this island. So to show a little bit of what you have in the area. So can't wait, let's hop on the boat. Sometimes I wonder between nature over nurture, right? What you've learned and what's in your genes. And my father had a few, I don't know how you'd call them, compulsions, obsessions, or just things he was just passionate about. I don't know if in a certain way how you'd want to call them. Compulsion, obsession sounds negative, but he was just absolutely, his life was about books and writing. He was an anthropologist, sociologist, but he had this one thing about houses and what we would call and joke about fixer-uppers. So fixer-uppers are, we'd be driving somewhere and you'd see a little shed by the side of the road. In a beautiful location, he would say, that would be a fantastic fixer-upper. Like, we could buy that place and fix it up. And he would buy places over the years. You know, and I don't mean in a negative way, but he's one of the only persons that I know who lost money pretty much on every house he bought, which is pretty, you know, everybody thinks, you know, real estate is like the stock market, you can only make money. Well, but my dad would pick these, you know, these places that just needed so much work, and he'd spend hours on, he was great at design, you know, just pencil. He painted when he was young, and he would spend hours when I'd visit him in the summers, you know, drawing how he'd fix these places up. And, you know, he'd go and he was always about finding the good deal. He didn't have much money, so he'd buy, you know, bay windows and cheap, you know, he'd find doors and just put it all in the garage for later, you know, and all these projects. And unfortunately, it didn't materialize, right? He was a professor, he was writing. So, you know, you do a little bit of work, but never, you know, the big construction. And it seemed like after a couple years, you know, he would want to move on from this location. And, you know, I've had this crazy obsession, you know, about, you know, owning homes and remodeling homes and buying land and building. Now, is that because it's DNA? Like it's in my, there's something in my genes. You know, they say sometimes up to 50% of our traits come from our genes. Is there something there that just pushes me to want to build, acquire, transform? I don't know. Or was it just watching my father, you know, when I went in the summer? And you know, it's funny because you think, you know, some of the experiences weren't the best. Like when my sister would go and he'd buy some dumps. And, you know, I'd come for the summer to see him. He lived in the US, I was in Switzerland. And, you know, and my sister would be there and, you know, he'd buy a place and the prior neighbors, you know, the cats and dogs had peed all over the carpet. It would smell. And we'd be there during the summer, you know, like cleaning. And so you'd think, you know, maybe it wasn't the best experience. Well, I don't know, right? But there's this obsession I have, but not an obsession in a way, like it's a passion. Like everywhere I've gone on holiday, you know, after a certain age where I started to have a bit of money in working, I started to get fascinated about real estate. I just started to, you know, want to own in different places, wanted to buy in different places. I'd go on holiday and I'd spend 1 or 2 days visiting properties and just had this passion. Now, the good news for me is I've bought and flipped a lot of properties on the side, always heart properties. I never bought just because the investment looked amazing. I always bought because I myself fell in love with the property, the location, or sometimes the potential. It's true, you know, so whether it was buying land in Costa Rica, you know, having a place in south of France, buying in Switzerland, reselling in Switzerland, you know, just the many different locations. So, but just this drive, and you know, there's something you love, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we decided to start with Blue Vista Properties is if I'm doing this anyways, right? I'm going on a holiday and I'm, you know, visiting locations, going on the internet, checking prices, dreaming. I thought, well, you know, we should do a business. I love this so much. For me, it's not work. It's fun. It's a hobby. You know, some people love to watch Netflix. Some people play music. Everybody has their own activities, their hobbies. You know, me on nights and weekends and my free time and my holidays, this is something I absolutely love. And that's kind of one of the reasons why here I am on this incredible island in Sardinia, exploring further and, you know, just seeing this beautiful scenery. And just, it makes me feel so amazing to be in such a stunning location. So, one of the questions is, how did we end up looking at Sardinia? And it's a bit of a mix between just facing reality, having this realization, and also a dream. And so you see, the realization was the following. So after I finished college, university studies, I went to the US. So I grew up in Switzerland. did all my education in Switzerland, but I'll visit my father. My parents were divorced, so I'd visit my father in the summers. And I arrived to do an internship after I finished university, and arrived in St. Louis. And what I realized was, for me, any new city, big city somewhere around the world, there's so much to discover, so much to explore that I could go there and live for a while. But I had a 1-year internship, and I realized something that later I would call being part of my environmental pillar. Meaning, if what you love to do, now I grew up in Switzerland, I love mountains, I love skiing, mountain biking, I love just hiking, did some rock climbing. So, and also, in fact, there's the lake, so I learned how to windsurf. Later I learned to scuba dive, love to snorkel. So if you look at the things you love in life, and then you're in a place, an environment, a location where a lot of the things that you love most you can't do, well, then you have a disconnect between where you are and the things you love. And that's why I called it one of the key pillars in your life which really impacts your life satisfaction is the environmental pillar, where you are, the environment in which you live, the location where you are. So I realized, later, right now, starting off in life, starting off in work, later it will be very important to pick the location where I'll base myself. So that was the first realization. The second realization was that if I wanted to have a place in a beautiful location with things that I love to do, either close to mountains or close to water, one of the most expensive costs you have is rent, right? So if I could own a place that was paid off, then it would really allow me later to possibly live with a lot less without having that massive amount of money going out every month, or massive, it depends, but it's a big amount. Typically rent is a big percent of your income. And the dream was the following. So the dream was, having a place. And I wrote this down in my book, and this is one of those things where I encourage everybody to have a notebook, and just when you have these moments, I call them moments of clarity, moments of insight, you suddenly see something, write it down in your notebook. You'll be amazed. It's like you're planting a seed for later. So I had this dream of saying, one day I will own a beautiful place in the sun, whether it's in the mountains or in a beautiful location like here in Sardinia, and here in Isola di Tavolara, just exploring. The dream was to have a place. But then there's something very peculiar. It happens to be that I quickly need to go to new places or want to discover. Since I was young, I traveled extensively, went, with my university years, 3 months backpacking across Indonesia at age 19. I traveled around the world, on a budget. And then later when I went into, my professional life, every 4 years I moved city, moved continents. I loved this, discovering a new place. And I had this idea. I said, will I be satisfied living in just one place? And I thought, wow, if I could have many places I could go to. And I had this idea. I said, well, I probably won't be able to afford to have, houses in multiple places. But what if I created a community of people, like-minded, strong values, take care of property, and this small community together, everybody had a home in a different place, and we would kind of rotate and be able to use each other's. And I wrote that down thinking, that's a pretty wild idea. And, here I am years later, not only am I building this community, but with, Blue Vista Properties, we actually started to invest in different locations, start to go in and look at having. And the idea evolved over time to get rental revenue, so you don't rely on a job, right? You can in fact get enough rental revenue to pay all your costs. And we looked at different places, and that's how we arrived upon Sardinia. And there's many reasons why we decided Sardinia would be such an amazing place to own a property. So this combination between a realization of where you live has such a huge impact on how you feel in your life satisfaction, and a dream of having flexibility, of being in beautiful places and building this. And this was, you know, eons ago. I was just right out of college, but that little dream written on a piece of paper, over the years, without even me realizing, without even noticing, I kept moving towards it. I kept building, and suddenly it's all coming together, and you're like, wow, that's crazy. So just to give you a bit of background on the story of how, you know, ultimately we ended up, and I started, and then, you know, with my wife Claudia, we ended up investing in different places around the world. So when I realized that, you know, rent was such a big part of the monthly costs, I thought, wow, if I could own a place, right? So I don't have to pay rent, I pay in full in a beautiful location, right? That was one of the first ideas, and I started exploring. And then, you know, Claudia, you know, she works from home, so, you know, she could work from pretty much anywhere. So what would be a beautiful location where, you know, we could buy a place or build a place at a reasonable amount of money, right? So still, you know, we're talking for some people a lot of money, but you know, we were, you know, living in Miami, and like I mentioned in another video, you know, a small condo, you know, was 2-bedroom was $600,000 in Miami Beach, $600,000, and on top of that, you had $1,000 or $1,200, I can't remember how much, in maintenance fees a month. So talk a lot of money. What if for that same $600,000, you know, I could have a house, or even $500,000, a house in a beautiful location, right? Paid off with low costs, and close to big airports, because, you know, depending on what we'd be doing in the future, we'd want to be able to travel. You want to be able to get it to get around, you know, Europe to the U.S. So, you know, I started looking at prices of property around Europe. So, you know, you spent a lot of time Googling and looking at where were prices reasonable, locations beautiful, and you know, I landed on a few options, right? So you have, you know, Spain, the coast of Spain. For me, it's a little too developed. There was also Portugal, some good prices, but, you know, I was kind of looking, not really finding. And then I landed on the island of Sardinia. And, you know, Claudia speaks, and Claudia wanted to invest, you know, for later. She's lived in Italy. She lived nearly 10 years in Milano, speaks, you know, perfectly Italian, you know. And we looked at the prices, you know, and I was looking at either renovating a place or buying land and building, and spent a lot of time, right? Now what's amazing with the internet is you can really do all the research from, you know, from abroad. Like from the US, I was able to completely research the, you know, completely research Sardinia, north to south, east to west, looking at both, you know. Now, Claudia didn't have the money at the time, and I didn't have the money to go and buy a house, right? But, and after my experience in Costa Rica buying, I kind of realized that, you know, that's where I arrived at this, not magical number, but just my number was under 100,000. Because if you get under $100,000 or 100,000 euros, depending, land, you could then, if you have put about 200 to 300 to build, you know, around the 400 range, you'd have a house, right? That was the idea. In Costa Rica, you know, in Nosara, near Playa Guiones, everybody knows, beautiful yoga, surfing. I love to surf. It's just great community. You know, so I fell in love with the place. I used to go on weekends, surfing weekends, and I bought there some land, you know, to build later, build a beautiful home. But there, you know, I was late in terms of prices. So price was $225,000 for a lot. And then, you know, building costs are pretty reasonable in Costa Rica. So I was calculating about 200 to 300 to build, right? My problem was, you know, if I could get a place for under 100, then you know, if I've already put 250 or 230 cash, then I need another 200 to 300. Well, I've just used up a lot of my capital. But if I could get a place for under 100, then the next 100, instead of being for the land, it's all ready to start building. And that's how, you know, looking at Sardinia, I started seeing some lots, you know, at the 100,000 range, even under the 100,000. And that's where we found, you know, narrowed it down, found a realtor who would help coordinate. So we would come, and then during a trip, I came and just scouted all the lots I had selected and some of the lots that the realtor had found across mostly northern Sardinia. So Sardinia has, you know, 3 big airports, but the one in the north is Olbia, and there's Cagliari also in the south. And from Olbia, the idea was, you know, if we could find a place within 45 minutes to 1 hour from Olbia, that would be perfect. And in fact, visited a bunch of lots, including one which was, you know, had been 20,000 euros, and they took it down a few times, and now it was at, you know, 85,000 euros, 10,500 square meters. You know, kind of an old, it's called Italian style stazzo. It's like an old house. The beginning of structure was there, and you had to kind of finish it. And there was pros and cons of this location. The biggest con was a dirt road, 2 kilometers up to the location. But then the location itself on a ridge, on one side the sea, the other side a river, this valley, La Liscia, just incredible. The last house at the end. So you'd really have this place just for you. Like if you want to be surrounded in nature with incredible views, with nobody disturbing you, that would be the place. And I could just imagine myself there with that view, you know, being surrounded by nature. And after visiting, you know, multiple options, finally this was the one that that we decided, and that Claudia decided she wanted to invest in. So so that's kind of how we landed in Sardinia. And I mean, there's so many reasons why Sardinia. Some of the most beautiful beaches in the Mediterranean. Now just Google Sardinia most beautiful beaches, or even Sardinia beaches. Click on images and you'll see it. Some of them just, it's like the Maldives. Just incredible turquoise water, you know, huge visibility. So some incredible beaches. But on top of that, you know, Italian culture, Italian food, you know, Sardinian wine, just so nice. You know, you have the access with the airports and the costs. In fact, the cost of living, okay, if you go up to Costa Smeralda, you know, right in the, where, you know, the mega yachts are, you're gonna pay, everything's gonna be expensive. But there's still lots of parts of Sardinia that are in fact very reasonable when you go out to eat. And so, you know, for this and many other reasons, we thought, you know, Sardinia would be a beautiful place to own and be able to move to. So, and I mean, come on, look at this. It's just, and this is just one place. All around the island, you have just incredible places like this. I mean, wow. So, I'm gonna keep exploring this beautiful little island here. Now the experience of finding a builder. So, you know, Sardinia is beautiful, but the experience, there's not only pros. So we met, you know, we had identified a series of builders, and we met with this first builder. And, you know, I was trying to explain that what I wanted to understand was, you know, get an idea of cost per square meter to build, right? So I told the builder, look, just tell me what's the not the lowest price, but a low price, so to build. What would be a mid-level? And I like to use the analogy with cars. For those of you who've seen other videos, like, what would a Volkswagen be? Like, so well-built, reliable, but not crazy expensive. And then on the upper end, right, well, I'll call BMW. So, not a Porsche, not a Maserati, a BMW. So the next level of luxury, super well built, but not crazy price. Like, can you just give me a range? And the answer was, no è possibile, dipende. And then he would go in this like singing, we say in French, tirade, just this, long conversation about why he couldn't. And, I'll insist, grew up in Switzerland, I'm just kind of want square, I need to work on overall budget, what are we looking at? So I explained, we had the realtor, that day I was alone with the realtor, so she was translating, and again, she just says, look, Nathan is trying to just understand so he can do a budget. Just, from the entry price, if you're looking at it, just let's look at the structure, not landscaping, not poor, things like that. Just narrow it down, entry, mid, and higher end. And the answer is, no, and that's not possible. Like, it depends, because if he wants this, or if he wants that, or he wants a crazy toilet, then the price goes up. So anyways, well, we went around, and you see some of the work. And I wasn't a big fan of the style. Now, you have all sorts of styles here. Some, from my perspective, are a little old-fashioned. They're not classy. They mix materials. It's just, there's too much like it, which for me looks 1980s. So that was a bit his style. Some of the things that he had done, I actually didn't like. So we moved on, one builder, second builder, third builder, and there's all sorts of elements. Like, one of the feedback of the first builder was like, not only does it depends how much I'm going to pay cash. And I grew up in Switzerland, so for me, I am not going to consider. I don't know. It's I understand you can get a better deal. You don't pay VAT, etc. if you pay cash. I understand that. There's just a piece about the ethics, and I just couldn't even imagine myself traveling, with a suitcase or a briefcase with 30,000 euros to pay cash. It just doesn't work with my mind. So again, this depends. It depends of, I just couldn't get a straight answer. And then it will move to this. It depends of how much you're going to pay cash and not cash. I'm just like, assume I'm paying everything with bills, everything fully legit. And I couldn't get a price per square meter. So yeah, it was an interesting experience. So then went to see another builder, and really liked the quality of the work, right? And it was nice, actually quite smart. He took us to a house he built with another older Italian gentleman, and the gentleman was just so pleased with the work. And that's the best reference, right? Because with the builder, after they're gone, if there's issues, and and it was interesting with this this builder, right? So I'm trying to get a sense of price per square meter. He's actually giving more information, but he says, but again, it depends a lot of choices of materials. And I'm like, yeah, well, but he gave an example, a concrete one, which I liked. He said, well, look, for instance, what type of tile roof are you gonna want? You don't want this modern looking, if it's an old, Stadtzel style house. I was like, no, I like the old style red, but I said, well, but you can get, a lot cheaper, the imitation one. And he was like, no, I can't do that. That is no. We can save on other things, but you want it to be authentic. You want the old tiles. It's just such a difference, and I kind of love that, because he had this like sense of aesthetic beauty and this sense of what's right and wrong, and he understood that we were on a budget, that we wouldn't go crazy in spending, but at the same time it was about choices. And here again, in terms of using of the local stone, the material. So he took us to different, some of the things that he had done wasn't really the style we're looking at. We're looking for a little bit more modern, but simple on the inside, kind of whitewashed, clean look, you know, without all the tiny tile, you know, the mosaic, etc., which you know, some people do and love, but it wasn't our goal. Was something a little bit more. But he took us to some, you know, some really nice projects, and so finally, you know, he worked on a quote, and we liked it, so we said, okay, we would proceed with him. Now that's the beginning of the adventure, because there was quite a few setbacks, and that's one of the things. It's beautiful here. It is beautiful. But there's quite a bit of mañana, sorry, that's Spain, you know, domani, tomorrow, you know, life is first, right? You know, so it's more, you know, we go to the restaurant with him, meet friends, family, amazing, great food. But then in terms of making progress on the project, and to be fair, he had some personal issues, family issues that happened, and he was very involved in his community. I think he was not the mayor, but responsible. So we would spend a lot of time talking about the giant fiesta he had to organize and how busy he was, and he was busy. And so, you know, and then, you know, the crisis happened. You know, nobody could travel, and you know, his son ended up you know, having some really quite grave concerning health issues. So everything went on hold. So, you know, pros and cons is you have to be patient, and you have to really, I think you have to have some pre-commitments in time. Now, in our case, it was a bit particular because we didn't have, and Claudia didn't have the cash to complete the project in one go. So from the very beginning, the idea was to do it in phases, right? To do structure and roof, which was completed, and then start the inside, you know, first the house, and then at a later stage, you know, maybe put in a pool on the outside deck, you know, do it in 3 stages. But anyways, the whole project got crazy delayed. Very interesting experience, so beware. It's something that you need to know, and I would say the due diligence in terms of, you know, maybe finding a builder that, you know, does more work. That, you know, we were seeing some, we just looked at some other ones just to compare now, and, you know, they're posting on Facebook every week different projects. So they, you know, they're a bigger team. So, you know, we like the idea of working with a small, kind of more of a mom and pop organization. We really like that, but the risk is that, you know, if he doesn't move, nothing happens. So, you know, that's a little bit about our experience here, but we look forward to continuing this project. It's really a heart project, and you know, looking forward to kind of showcase to you the lot and the land, so and where we are in this project. So all right, well, let's continue, and time to go back down into the water. Wow, amazing. Wow, now that was crazy beautiful. Just the color of the water here. You know, there's so many beaches in Sardinia that have this turquoise water. Now it can get, you know, busy in the summer, but there's just so many beaches, and, you know, some are hard to get to, so you can really find just, you know, beautiful places. It's really such a stunning place. So yeah, just continuing. Every time we come, we try to explore new places. You know, this time going a little boat ride, you know, to this island, and you know, every time I'm just blown away just by the sheer beauty, and you know, how friendly the people are, the food, the wine. It's just, you know, just very unique. So hope you can come and explore it. Well, some of you have asked, you know, where'd the money come from? You know, like it was, you know, I inherited all this money. Well, in fact, not at all. You know, the first time I was a bit privileged because I borrowed some money from family for my first real estate purchase. I had bought a condo on Miami Beach, ocean view, small 1-bedroom, and I remember at the time, so I borrowed the money for the down payment, and it was one of those. My view has always been like what I call the wow factor. Does the property have, you know, this just amazing, you know, wow? And when you walk in, like, do you just fall in love with it? And if you do, you will be able to resell, and you have a higher chance of it, you know, making more money. So if it has that wow factor, and so this 1-bedroom that I invested in was $171,000, right? And at the time, I remember people telling me, "Wow, you know, you could get a place, you know, for that amount. You could get a house, you know, in inner Miami, Doral." And I was like, "Yeah, but you can get more and more and more. There's so much space." But the beach is the beach, and it's restricted. Now this was tight, right? So for me financially, I had to really be careful, like restaurants. But the amazing thing is, you know, you're paying off. So you're not paying rent, you're paying off a debt, right? And after 3 years in Florida, if you keep it for 3 years, then it's not short term anymore. You don't have to pay capital gains, right? And I kept it for 3 years. And on top of that, I was paying amortization. I can't remember, but like $800 a month, something like that. So, you know, $8,000 per year over 3 years. I set aside $24,000, and I can tell you those $24,000, I would have spent them on, you know, at the time, Bose speakers, restaurants. So, you know, not only did I save $24,000, but the property, because then for work I had to move, and I sold it for $235 3 years later. So the 25 I set aside, right, plus the 170 to 235 in 3 years, being super young, just starting out. And that's when I realized, okay, you know, you can make money, and good money, in real estate. And I never turned back. From that day onward, everywhere I went, I looked at real estate, looked at deals, and bought, lived in properties, like in Switzerland, you know, sometimes did not, got secondary homes. And like at the time, before Airbnb, it was HomeAway, which is VRBO or Verbo as they call it now. And, you know, I had renters pay off a property. So over time, you know, the concept was buy and flip, but also buy and have other people build equity, build capital for you. So think of this. Let's say one of the locations I was looking at was Sedona. So I spent, you know, kind of a year looking at locations in the United States, you know, looking at, you know, Miami, looking at the Keys. Had lots of issues in the Keys because most places do not allow short-term rental. Only you can do 1 month minimum, so no good for me financially. Looked in the Carolinas, you know, but short season, mostly summer. And I was looking at locations where the prices, and this was a couple years ago, had not bounced back from the crisis, right? And I settled on Sedona for a few reasons, but, you know, year-round tourism, and prices after the crisis, because you have the historicals. When you go into Zillow, you can really see the prices. And I apologize for the wind. It looks like my microphone doesn't seem to be working right now. But you know, you hadn't really bounced back the prices, and year-round rental, of course, high season, low seasons, but looked really good. And so if you do the math and think of it this way, let's say you find a $600,000 home, right? And you put 20% down. So you would be you need $120,000. Yeah, that's a lot of money. And at the time, with my brother, I didn't have the money. You know, I flipped the house in Miami, used the money, you know, in 1 year, bought it for $495, sold it a year later for $625, took the money, invested with my brother, and put in Sedona. So you get a $600,000 house. Okay, 20% down, 120. Now imagine this. This is kind of the math. Imagine that renters are paying off. They get a 30-year loan, right? The renters are paying off your loan, but you're making enough money to pay it off faster. So you're adding payments. So my goal was to pay off the house in 14 years. So I put 120 down, it's worth, 600, and 14 years later it's paid off. The big question is, what's it gonna be worth, right? So how much capital did I build up? And in fact, I mean, right now the market's been crazy, so the valuations are crazy. Maybe it'll go back down, but right now, the house, you don't even want to know how much it's worth. It's like double than value. It's insane. But let's just say it's worth $1 million, right? Let's just say for sake of argument. So 14 years later, you put 120 down. You have it paid off. Renters paid off the remaining, and it's worth $1 million. So 120, and now you got $1 million 14 years later. Now that is amazing math, and that's how you build not only capital, but you build also rental income. Because if you don't sell the house, you can just rent it out, and once it's paid off after 14 years, all that cash coming in is passive income that you can use to live off of. So that's the calculation. All right, I'm sorry I'm huffing and puffing away because I have to hurry back to the boat. Looks like I'm behind time and the boat's gonna be leaving. It's just walking around this beautiful beach here. I mean, wow. Okay, so I'm gonna hurry back to the boat. Well, I hope you liked that video. That was a long video. I kind of went all out, sharing my passion, a bit of the background story, how we fell in love with Sardinia, why we chose Sardinia, but also kind of how I got into real estate. So I hope you enjoyed it. Looking forward to sharing a lot more about Sardinia and our project there and taking you to the project, but also other real estate projects we have in beautiful places. So I hope you like the content. You can see how passionate I am about it. So please, press the like button, subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot to us. Put some comments, some questions, reach out to us. We'd love to share more. And so many more videos to come. We'll see you soon in one of the next videos. Take care.